News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Nathan Hager.
And I'm Karen Moskow.
Karen, we begin with the latest from the G7 Leaders Summit in Evian, France. President Trump has arrived at the gathering touting an interim deal with Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. The president says the agreement is already having an impact.
The deal's all signed, and the strait is already partially opened. As you know, they're doing a little hunting for a couple of mines that they've already found. But it's essentially ships are starting to go out now. On Friday, it'll be completely opened.
President Trump spoke alongside French President Emmanuel Macron at the G7. Vice President J.D. Vance made the rounds on television to defend the deal.
The Iranians don't get a dime unless they behave and change their behavior. And this means that Iran will never have a nuclear weapon, Sean. That's why we did this.
When you say they don't get a dime, do they ever get an American dime, a taxpayer dollar?
No. So number one, first of all, they never get a dime of American taxpayer money, ever. Full stop. Not even close.
And Vice President J.D. Vance spoke with Fox News host Sean Hannity. He's expected to represent the U.S. when both sides sign the deal on Friday.
Well, Nathan, despite those assurances from President Trump and Vice President Vance, European leaders are sounding less optimistic about the Strait of Hormuz reopening by Friday. Bloomberg Chief Europe correspondent Oliver Crook is covering the G7 in Evian.
There's also this effort by European leaders and their militaries to potentially have this demining mission that would go to the Strait of Hormuz. But they say they can really only do that once they understand this peace deal and once there is, an actually durable peace deal. There's also a real question about whether or not some of these leaders, like Giorgia Meloni, has suggested that she doesn't really want to participate in anything until there's a full deal that also includes Lebanon. So these are some of the concerns I think that G7 leaders will be having today.
And Bloomberg's Oliver Crook reports some senior administration officials are saying it could take up to 2 weeks for shipping to increase through the strait and even longer to return to pre-war levels. Today, there will be a focus on Ukraine along with Iran. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has arrived in Evian for a morning session focused on his country's war with Russia.
And Karen, at least one key Gulf oil producer is already making plans for Hormuz to reopen. Bloomberg News has learned Qatar plans to rapidly boost production of liquefied natural gas once shipping through the waterway is restored. Qatar Energy told buyers it plans to raise output to about 50% capacity in the first month, then about 80% a month later. The energy provider says full capacity will take years to restore due to damage from Iranian missile strikes.
Nathan, the slide in oil continues this morning. Right now, Brent is at $81.39 a barrel. NYMEX crude oil at $78.87. Oil's now headed for its longest losing streak of the year. It's down 4 days in a row. Both Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs have cut price outlooks for the coming quarters. In fact, Goldman predicts Persian Gulf exports will reach pre-war levels by the end of July.
Meanwhile, the U.S. emergency supply of crude oil, Karen, has fallen to its lowest level since 1983. And we get details from Bloomberg's Charlie Pellet.
It comes as the Trump administration moves toward completing its plan to release 172 million barrels to ease surging fuel prices spurred by the war in Iran. The SPR, the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, was created after the Arab oil embargo of the early 1970s. In March, the U.S. Energy Department announced a plan to release oil from the Strategic Reserve as part of a coordinated effort by nations around the world less than 2 weeks after the U.S. and Israel launched attacks on Iran. In New York, Charlie Pellet, Bloomberg Radio.
All right, Charlie, thank you. In other news this morning, 8 people have died after a B-52 bomber crashed shortly after takeoff from a U.S. Air Force base in Southern California. The aircraft was on a routine test mission when the incident occurred. Deputy Commander Colonel James Hayes says they aren't sure yet what led to the crash.
At this point, we don't have any indication as to what the cause was of this. We won't be able to release that information, and we don't have an ability to get that anytime soon.
And Colonel James Hayes says the investigation could take up to 6 months to complete.
Let's turn back to markets now, Karen. Stocks are coming off a major rally on Wall Street. The Dow Jones Industrial Average closed at an all-time high. The S&P 500 rose 1.7%, while the tech-heavy NASDAQ 100 added 3.1%.
Nathan, it's also shaping up to be another good day for SpaceX investors. The stock is up 10.9% in pre-market trading And that's building on its nearly 40% gain across its first 2 sessions as a public company. The Elon Musk-led company is now worth more than $2.5 trillion. David Bauer is co-head of ECM Americas at JP Morgan Chase.
It's all systems go to make a, pun intended for SpaceX. But I think if there was any hesitancy of, should I continue to buy up 20%? I think the answer is yes. And if you look long enough, there's this is a business that could be generationally transformational.
JP Morgan's David Bauer. SpaceX is now one of the 6 biggest companies in the world. That's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Karen Moskow.
I'm Nathan Hager, and this is Bloomberg.